Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show, How We Grow. This is your essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business. With advice and insights from the best in the biz, I'm your host, Lynell Gordon. Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show. I'm Lynell Gordon, your host, and today I'm really excited to have David Krauss. He is the CEO of Rent Responsibly, and that's the first community building and educational platform for the short-term rental operators. David's journey began in 2012, where his passion for hospitality and entrepreneurship led him to become one of the top 100 hosts in the world for consistency and guest satisfaction. And I know that is saying something, guys. So after he had this experience with really loud guests, he founded a company called NoiseAware, which I absolutely love and have integrated with, and I think it's a great product. It was a noise, is a noise monitoring solution, which connected him to thousands of hosts who needed better resources and support. So in 2019, David founded Rent Responsibly to help short-term rental hosts connect and grow through education and a strong community. And he is passionate about building collaborative environment. He believes in creating win-win situations. So welcome, David.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here. So glad to meet you. And I will only correct one thing. I don't think it has to be only win-win. Win-win-win is kind of, I think, baseline, but it doesn't even stop there. I mean, I think a lot of the things we do in the vacation rental industry has all these wins that we don't even account for or talk about or celebrate. And I am here to do that.
Awesome. Listen, you had something really exciting happen yesterday. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened, and let's hear.
Yeah. So we're here talking on May 22nd. For your pod listeners, whenever you're getting this, it will be after today, I'm sure. So now live and fully publicly available and very much off and running is an organization called the Right to Rent Collaborative. So the Right to Rent Collaborative is a 501c6 trade association dedicated to ensuring that vacation rental advocacy is well funded. There's a lot more information, a lot more things we could unpack, but r2rcollaborative.org would be where you can get all the info. But the long and short of it is we've recognized, this is me speaking as Rent Responsibly, we've recognized over the last 5 years that our industry has grown a lot, for sure. It's matured a lot, both on the technological side and the sophistication and the traveler expectations, on and on and on. I'm probably preaching to your audience choir here. But what we haven't innovated and haven't solved is how do we get hosts, owners, and managers from all across the country, there's about 1 million of us, into a network that can ultimately help accelerate the education, right? How do you get good education to each and every person, especially the new hosts, right? There's no driver's ed for hosts out there, not yet anyway. And ultimately, advocacy is one of the challenges of our time. The regulatory environment continues to be the one reliable graph that is up and to the right. Every year, year over year, there are more jurisdictions picking up and either revising or creating new regulatory frameworks or policies or blah, blah, blah. But it's also heading up to the state level. So back to the Right to Rent Collaborative, it's an independent organization with a wonderful board, one of whom is Scott Leggett, who we were just talking about. I love that man. And effectively, this idea of keeping advocacy and really statewide associations where the regulatory issues are primarily being driven, getting 50 state coverage with state level associations is one of the goals of the organization, and funding them to do that so they have staff, right? We've relied on volunteers, what my coworker Dana calls the 25th hour of the day is where you find your advocacy time. But anyways, the Right to Rent Collaborative is really what if it was easier? What if it was easy solution to funding state associations that can also have chapters down to the local, and the mechanism for it. And I realize this is a long preamble, if you will, but I think it's important. How does it work? So corporations, vendors, housekeeping companies, all the way to Verbo and Airbnb and Inhabit and many other organizations have chosen to contribute donations to the trade association. So yesterday we announced $188,000 from founding donors. Fantastic. Cue, if we have audio or post-production here, you could cue like an uproarious cheer or applause. But
For sure. That's
actually, you know
amazing.
what? Let's save that for when we actually hit the big milestones that we're aiming at. Anyways, so Rent Responsibly as the management provider, so we're the association service provider, making sure that everything goes well and grows and follow the strategy of the board. Our goal is also to make it easy for hosts, owners, and managers to contribute to the Right to Rent Collaborative. And the way to do that is going to be through your property management software system. We have a system that basically integrates with all of them. So if within the next couple of months, they will all be up and running. And the program is a opt-in $2 per completed reservation donation. So you sign up, and ultimately the $2 per completed reservation will automatically get put into the Right to Rent Collaborative organization, at which point it will then make its way into the different state groups, local, and certainly building new state groups, and also consistent, reliable funding for existing statewide associations.
Now, that's amazing. I'll tell you why. You said something that really struck me as very important for property managers, especially as busy as they are. You said it makes it easy for them to get involved with advocacy. So talk to me just a little bit about how that would work for people who want to get involved. We've been preaching for years how important it is, and we've seen some incredible success, like in the Gulf area, and we've seen some incredible success with people like Ginger at Beach Ball, who has gotten involved in advocacy in a way that's changed the industry. I just want to shout out to her for doing that. That to me was incredibly remarkable and brave what she did. And so not everyone it's not as easy for everyone to get involved. So how does this make it easy for people to be involved?
Great question. So you almost look back at what pre-existed or how things were done beforehand. My first experience in advocacy at all was as the CEO of NoiseAware. I was getting a lot of phone calls from people who were panicking, saying my city is going to ban short-term rentals because of party houses. So we started NoiseAware in 2015. In 2016, Austin banned whole home rentals. That's the headquarters of HomeAway, Verbo, Expedia. Well, not Expedia, but HomeAway, Verbo. And it was over 8 party houses. So there was a narrative issue, a data issue, and ultimately a solution issue, because nobody could really speak to a party prevention device or noise nuisance solution. So I was just in this spot where I had no idea what I was getting into, but the ability to get all of the hosts, owners, and managers in Austin to be aware that anything was going on, and then ultimately get organized and have leadership and contribute and become an official organization if they wanted to. It literally was, every single thing was uphill. And then fast forward to 2019, when I was taking my passion for Rent Responsibly outside of NoiseAware, it was just clear that this is what I wanted to dedicate my life to. Decibels are great, but how many years can you talk about them? I think it's a 4-year term limit. And I did my sentence, I did my term. God bless. But yeah, I mean, but then at that point, I met my co-founder, Alexa, and she was trying to set up the Chapel Hill Short-Term Rental Alliance. It took her 40 hours to just set up the basic infrastructure to do that. And she's really capable. She had
No, she is. She's remarkable.
she's a genius, and she still took her 40 hours. And so we put our heads together and said, hey, this is a train wreck. Like, we just see these groups get stood up. There's a great leader oftentimes, and they burn out. And then what happens? There's no kind of continuity plan or really resourcing to support them in any way, shape, or form. So that was the beginning of why we said Rent Responsibly needs to make it 10 times easier to do this stuff. So 10 hours easier means 4 hours. So we've gotten it from 40 to 4 hours to start a group. Check.
That's fabulous.
Thank you. Number 2 is make each dollar go 10 times further. And I think that has a lot to do with collaboration, so avoiding redundancy, and also just learning what's effective and making sure that you're empowering people to be effective so they're not spending all their time doing relatively wasteful activities or impact that may be impactful but not optimal. And so at the end of the day, it's just been hard. So the 5 years of Rent Responsibly feels like life supporting and just building foundation blocks. And now at this point, the reality is, what do associations need to be successful? They need 3 things: treasure, talent, and time. So if you have treasure, you can pay people for their time who are talented. So the real input that a lot of these groups need is staff, talented staff who can do what really talented staff can do, so that the association board and the volunteers and the members can go do what is most impactful. And that's how you make each dollar go 10 times further. So we're on that hunt.
Okay. So how do people get involved if they want to get involved with this new 501c6?
Great question. So if you are a manager and you have a property management software system, you will first, you can sign up for the interest list today on r2rcollaborative.org, and that will put you in a queue for when your property management software system is live.
Integrated.
And so they're rolling out in kind of waves. And so depending on when you're listening to this, more than likely your property management software will already be hooked up. And then you go through a simple opt-in process where you're effectively connecting a system to your reservation count and through your PMS's API. And then you're authorizing the collection of $2 per reservation as a donation. And so some people are raising, just adding a $2 to their dynamic pricing software or a line item fee, or that's really up to you. And so once you turn that on, you are now done. That's
okay.
why
So tomorrow, or the day after I do that in my city,
Yep.
I find out that they have announced that they're trying to ban short-term rentals. Is there anything there that helps me? Are there any resources or people that will help me to form my own group to make things happen?
Yes, and that's why I think Rent Responsibly. So again, we are the association management service provider to the Right to Rent Collaborative. So we are, and we have been prior to Right to Rent Collaborative being launched yesterday. We've been the bat phone for the industry. Folks who are having an issue typically call, and Dana, she's my birthday twin, but also nobody with more passion for this in the world than Dana. So she's usually the person who takes the call, and we have a treasure trove of off-the-shelf resources for these type of, let's call it firefighting, like immediate help needs. And then we can help you get in touch with any other needs. This is Rent Responsibly's function. But now with the Right to Rent Collaborative, there is an advisory committee that will be issuing grants from the funds that are collected. And so there's a grant application
Wow.
process as well. So the idea is rapid infusion of capital where needed, and then long-term sustainable capital. So less and less firefights, more and more fireproofing. And then this is where the win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win comes in is once these rules of the road are settled, then the question is, what do we want to see in the future beyond regulatory issues as our effectively industry mission? And I have a lot of thoughts on that, but ultimately it will be directed by the industry, right? This is a team sport. It's a very collaborative mentality. So if that happened to you, Lynell, I would say first, there's a body of things you could do, but certainly reaching out and finding out where the resources are that are available to you an arm's reach away, and we can help you do that. VRMA issues grants through their advocacy fund as well. And there's a lot of other groups that would love to help you. But our goal is ultimately the success and sustainability of the industry. So there's a lot of folks now that are kind of joining the ranks and getting good at what we really need to get good at.
So, say I am really into advocacy. I'm a property
Mhm.
manager that has been doing advocacy, even when advocacy was not a deal. It's just something that you naturally have done as a property manager. How can I get involved in leadership and helping?
Do you actually want to? Is this a real question? Can I recruit
No,
you
I
right now?
actually have no, but I've interviewed property managers, and
Yeah.
this is their passion. Their passion is
Yeah.
advocacy. And I'm like, say I'm one of those out there that are quiet, and I keep in my own lane, but I'm very passionate about advocating for my area. And I've created, already created groups I have experience. Do you need help? Do you want them to reach out and say, hey, I do this for my area? If you need something, here I am. I'm a
Yeah.
volunteer. Or, maybe you need someone. If they want to get involved, is there a process for that?
Absolutely. And I think you could think of it as a continuum. So the intent to get involved is the inspiration. It's almost like the traveler journey, if you will. So it's like, oh, I want to do this. I'm going to go to whatever search engine or call somebody who I know who has done it before. Whatever you would normally do when you get excited or interested in something, I would say the first thing is to take an action. Don't just sit on that feeling. And the first thing after, so let's go with chronological. The second thing is to look up to see if somebody around you is already doing that, has already, done the work to start an organization. And so rentresponsibly.org/alliances is a directory of the 90 or so associations in the country. There are 20 at the state level and the rest at local, and regional and sometimes county. It's always a mixture of things.
Sure.
And so that alone could get you plugged in. It's a link to their website and the contact information is right there. If that fails, just email us because we are absolutely the nerve center of, who's doing what. And sometimes groups are in the process of formation and we're helping them and giving them our, free blueprint for how to get started and all this sort of stuff. So I think reach out locally, whether it's local or state, and then ultimately, if you don't see what you're looking for, go that next step to just ask. I think we are a great resource. There are others, of course. And then I think lastly, if you really want to start a group, you want to be that leader who's kind of the founder, the initiator, just know that it is 10 times easier to do that today than it was 5 years ago.
That's
And
awesome.
you don't need to go full blown 501c6, which these numbers and these are, people probably have heard of 501c3, which is a charity. 501c6 is a trade association. They're IRS designations. It's just paperwork. But what
That's
you can,
important paperwork, though. It's
it's
fabulous.
it's important, and that's why people need help, right? That's why it takes 40 hours if you're just kind of fumbling or chat GPTing your way through it, which, we started before chat GPT, so maybe that's maybe that's viable. But
S-
yeah,
s-
it's doable, but you don't have to go all the way to trade association. Facebook groups is where some of these start, and then when they're ready to kind of grow and become, more mature, collect dues, have a bank account, all that, there's a process, and we can help, we can advise and point you in the right direction.
Interested in a unique franchise opportunity? iTrip Vacations provides a unique business opportunity in a thriving industry. iTrip offers an executive-level income potential with work-life balance in an exclusive territory. As an iTrip franchisee, you'll provide a full array of short-term rental property management services for the properties that you manage. iTrip offers extensive support and training requiring no previous experience. Visit us online at itripfranchise.com to learn more.
So I will clarify one thing. Of course, I think advocacy is incredibly important. And
Yeah.
I am very much a big supporter of that. And I am passionate for it. I do keep up with it. That's the reason I interview Scott Leggett as much as I can so that we can get that information out there. I think it's one of the most important things we can do as property managers is to advocate for our industry. I mean, and so I'm really excited about it. Let me ask you this. Do you want to talk just a few minutes about the Federalist that you were talking about? I found that so interesting and fascinating. We can leave it, or we can go there, and you can tell me what your thoughts are on.
I can say something. I'll probably not mention the actual, because I haven't actually watched the whole thing, but I'll say the trend that I think even
That's what I'm
this
interested. Yeah.
conversation happening. So yeah, I guess so. Great question. The question of what is the trend in the regulatory and policy, and where are the rules getting made, and where are the rules of the road going to end up, right? That's usually what people care about. It's almost like when is the pain going to be over? When is this going to just be settled and we can move along? The only way I can understand that or frame it is with an analogy. So the analogy that is most salient to me is the Ford Model T and its impact on society. It's a near perfect analogy, if you ask me. So in 1908, the Ford Model T, Henry Ford's greatest achievement, wasn't inventing the automobile. The internal combustion engine had already been around for 20 or so years. It was the mass production, the assembly line that made an automobile not only available to those who built it, right? This is the democratization of access to leisure, luxury travel. You're going to start to hear already where this is going, but it throttled the growth of the automobile, which fundamentally was preferred consumer demand versus the alternative, which was horse and buggy, right? So It was just a complete revolution, and it took 7 years to go from 200,000 cars to 2 million on the road. And that change, that, astronomical, parabolic change in any sort of activity that touches all of our communities, the roads that horses and buggies were quietly, clip, 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 whatever, we're now automobiles going 20 miles an hour instead of 5 miles an hour. What were the complaints? Noise, trash, and parking. Noisy cars, the cars when they break down, there's no tow truck, it's a piece of trash. Parking, who was thinking about parking before there were a lot of cars? Nobody. So it was only after the Ford Model T and its growth and its recognized adoption that there were millions of people who wanted to drive their own car, had never had the chance to before. Those folks got together and started working on education. They started working on community building. They worked on chapters. And guess what? Soon the American Automobile Association starts to zipper these chapters together. They do studies on safety and what are the best areas to invest in technology. How do we reduce the cost of compliance? And then you have the state by state rules of the road roll out. So license plates on cars, driver's licenses for driving, drunk driving laws. Too many of those, you get your license pulled. We assume all these things were there at some point. They did not come with the car. They came after the car. And so in our case, vacation rentals, they've been around a long time. You can trace them really post-World War II era was the first time luxury, leisure, and vacations were a thing in the country. Otherwise, you had to be a king or a queen with the Palace of Versailles to go to a vacation home, you know? And so now we have this rules of the road moment for short-term rentals where the conversation is about standards. It's about state level standards, local standards, permits, licenses, education. How do you revoke a permit, enforcement? I mean, on and on. It is an exact parallel, except we're going 10 times faster now. It took 30 or 40 years for those rules to get hammered out. I'm saying 3 to 4 more years, and we should have a lot of this stuff in our rear view mirror, pun intended, and we should be cooking. I mean, it's at this point, we need to think about how to make this easier, faster, and at scale. And I think we can do it. We're well poised to do it, and we fundamentally have enough passionate people, all in agreement. The industry alignment is there.
That's just fabulous. And I just want to say I I just want to give you kudos for all the work that you've done to put this together and all the thought behind it that you've done with your team and with your collaboration with other people. I think it's remarkable how much you've gotten done in the last 3 years. Think about where we were 3 years ago. Think about where we were 5 years ago when we first started thinking about giving $1 per property management company in order to do that. And I have to say, I think that was Scott Leggett's idea.
It was.
And the
He and
reason,
Tiffany. Hmm.
yeah, he and Tiffany. But Scott, see, that's always been his strong suit is being able to find how to create new revenue for property managers. That was really his thing before he was, before he took over this advocacy position that was offered to him. And I mean, he's been an advocate for the industry for so many years, but I'm just really impressed with how far you guys as a team, when you teamed up and how quickly you put that together. So congratulations on that. I know I'm going to talk with Scott more about it so he can, give us his spin on that. But I really appreciate all the work that you guys have put into it.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out the other board members. So Scott was the initial conversation that, was like, do you guys think you can do this or support this? And I said, well, only one way to find out, right? Let's try. And but everybody has said yes, literally all the way down to the advisory committee. So on the board, it is Julie Marks, the founder of Vermont Short-Term Rental Association, is the president. The other board members are Margot Schmorak from Hostfully, who was a part of the original instance of Right to Rent. And then Amber Knight, who is currently with Bookings Cloud, who's just an industry maven as well. And so we have these fantastic and really, really bright and hardworking board members. We just support them. There's now a advisory committee that really looks at what are the opportunities for the funding and how do we make sure that we have really good transparency and reporting. So there'll be quarterly impact reports and an annual report. And I think those ultimately will be, that's part of education, like what works, what could we improve? Let's get other people involved and interested in how they can use their time, treasure, or talent to improve these processes. So the flywheel is definitely spinning, but it's spinning because of a lot of passionate people who are talented and put their time in. Now we are making it easier for other people to put their treasure behind this flywheel. And ultimately, we all benefit because, we are a rising tide industry. Not a lot of us compete against each other. But I'm speaking as a property manager. I'm no longer a host, but you know what I mean.
Yes, completely. And I agree with you. Is there any advice that you'd give property managers today?
I mean, yes. What I hear a lot, and I'm just going to go, Lynell, I'm going a different direction than I normally do because
Perfect.
Saying the same thing. Yeah, we know advocacy is important. We know that this could come to our town. We know this is like what we hear all the time. I'm not belittling it at all. But what property managers really don't have is a lot of extra time. It's a fact of life.
Mm-hmm.
Property management is time intensive and things come up and you can't prioritize volunteer things, consistently. So what I would advise any property manager to do is realize that talent and time are very, very welcome at the table, proverbial table. But we need to be thinking about the future of the advancement of this industry as a professional endeavor. And what does that look like? That means that people writ large are contributing to their state, which ultimately will have chapters down to wherever you are, or however that shakes out. That organization is going to protect you, help you level up the industry, bring those standards about, bring the studies about, but it really just takes treasure at this point. So the way to contribute, if you're not contributing already, is ultimately by basically donating a fraction, $2 per reservation, if you choose to do it that way, to the general cause. And there will be downstream benefits, and we don't need to go into that right now. But the fundamental reality is, like, it's now easy. It didn't used to be easy to contribute. I mean,
Right.
your guest is ultimately paying that $2. No guest, no $2. So there's really an element here where there's an elegance to a system that can ultimately help you, the contributor, with your voice, with your vote, with your showing up to the meetup or whatever, read the annual report. You will be able to contribute in bite-sized ways. We no longer are really asking from people things that they can't possibly do sustainably. So it's all about sustainability. Put it into your budget, put it into the $2 per reservation. And look, you can directly give the money to your association. You don't have to use the system. You can give it to the VRMA and their advocacy fund. They have different things that they're focused on, but we really have an opportunity for everybody to easily contribute. And I think that's my message.
You have a way that people can truly make a difference with just those $2 by creating the platform for scalability. We can quickly gather monies enough to combat what is happening today in vacation rentals. So I think that is remarkable. Creating scalability for any business owner is where we go. We want to be scalable. It's the only way you can grow your business. But being scalable in advocacy is it's like exponential in what can be done, because like you said, you can deliver monies quickly. You can deliver, what they need in certain areas to help, like, immediately. So that's really 3 years, like you said. It's not going to take the 40 years it did for the vehicle.
We don't have the time, frankly.
Yeah, we don't. We have so much regulation right now. And I mean, it's down to the HOA that I am a part of in Dallas, Texas. They were looking, like, I was on the board of our HOA. I think anybody that is interested in advocacy or is a leader in trying to make sure that things like that are taken care of, you're probably on those boards too. And they wanted to outlaw being able to do. I think they were going for short-term of any sort rentals. And so, I mean, I think that everybody has seen it. No matter where you are in the industry, you've seen some sort of regulation come up. So I hope that you'll be a part of this. And I hope that if you have any questions, can they reach out to your team? How would they do that?
Sure. Well, I personally don't. I like, send me an email. I will make sure you're taken care of. So that's David at rentresponsibly.org. Happy to help. Even if we don't have the answer, usually we can find whomever does. Even if it's to connect with folks in your area, our network is quite significant at this point. And I do want to end on a positive note, because that's another one of my pet peeves is, like, we're talking about advocacy and regulations and things that even I was like, why do I have to talk about? I mean, even noise felt that way. And that's not why people got into this business. That's not what animates us. We're hospitality people. We're people. We want, world-class experiences for all of our guests. And So what I want to say here is that if you take the really long game, we have that Ford Model T analogy on our side. The better and more consistent that vacation rental, short-term rental experiences get for guests, the more adoption and probably re-adoption we will get of our category, because a lot of people have had bad experiences and read, all those silly headlines that are half true at best. And the automobile over the 100 years since 1925 became the same way that dramatic, almost vertical scaling curve of autos getting onto the streets. There was a downward sloping curve of how dangerous it was to operate an automobile. So the biggest policy success of the 20th century is largely considered automobile policy, because it made this traveling thing that people wanted to do so much safer. Think about anti-lock brakes, airbags, seat belts, all this stuff. It came from within the automobile industry. So we already have all the answers. And don't take, deaths in automobiles as the proxy. It's frankly just, cohesion and harmony with the community, period. And so we have this opportunity to be the most celebrated industry in the 21st century, because who doesn't want elevation of small businesses, infusion of capital to areas that haven't typically seen tourism, entrepreneurism, peer-to-peer networks, people gaining financial independence. And ultimately the dream, I think, for a lot of us is just to live like a happy life. And I think part of that requires connection. And this is one of those industries that offers it. And so I am passionate times 10, and I know everybody else in general in this industry is too, but we need to think really big and be very bold. And I think we have a way to get there, and the flywheel's already spinning. The water's warm, and everybody's welcome to join.
Well, I hope everybody will come take a swim. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for sharing your passion with me and with the rest of the industry. I'm very grateful for what you're doing. I think that without people to have a vision to start this and to make it easy for everybody else, it would have been much harder. So I'm really grateful to all of you guys that are doing this. Thank you so much. And I hope that our property managers will join in and be a part of this.
Yeah, and it's information. So if you have ideas, if you hate it and you want to tell us why, do it. Like we're Rent Responsibly is fundamentally catching the ideas, bringing them to the board, to the advisory committee, and saying, hey, here's a way to do it better, or so-and-so wants to help. How can we fold this in? So it is a wide open door.
Well, thank you so much for giving us that door to walk through, and for giving us the platform that we need to make sure it happens easily for advocacy.
My pleasure, but I can't take credit because it feels like we're not as far away as we used to be, but hard work is the only solution to most problems. So ready to rock.
You got a lot of great help there. So I think that everybody that you mentioned, they're just rock stars in the industry. They really are. So shout out to all of you guys. Thank you for what you're doing. And we'll have you back and find out what's happening in about 6 months.
I love it. I'm here for it. Thank you, Lynell.
This episode of How We Grow was brought to you by iTrip Vacations. To find out more about how iTrip Vacations can help to grow your vacation rental business, visit iTripFranchise.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.